girls born to the lineage of Cain were called the daughters of men. So, these two are totally contrasting characters. Okay? Cain was the one who killed his younger brother. Now, Seth was the boy. When he was born, Bible says, people began to call on the name of the Lord. So, you find contrasting characters there. So, the lineage of Seth, the boys, and the lineage of Cain, the girls, they started intermarrying. So, that is where the wickedness started proliferating. Now, please also remember there is another school of thought. The other school of thought is the fallen angels. The fallen angels came and married the people on this earth. Now, the fallen angels married some people on this earth, and their children were the giants. Okay? They were the giants. Now, can we counter this school of thought? Yes. The reason is, angels are sexless creatures. Right? In such a case, how can they have children? Alright? So, the viable one, mostly accepted school of thought is the line of Seth and the line of Cain. Alright? Now, because of this, what happened? The wickedness increased. And then God said, my spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. Please remember, now in chapter 5 you find people living 900 years. Easy, right? 900 plus was very easy. Now God said, I'm going to cut down the age to 120. What a drastic reduction in the lifespan of a person. Number one, because of the sin, the death came. Death was not instituted in the beginning. The death came because of the sin. Secondly, now the age, the lifespan is now shortened to 120 years. Verse 4, you find the word the Nephilim on the earth in those days. You find the word Nephilim in NIV. You find Nephilim. I don't know what is there in the King James Version. What is it there, Roberta? Verse 4?
Giants in the earth.
Exactly. So the Nephilim are actually the giants. You see how the other school of thought says there were giants? It is because of those angels and the men marrying, and that's why the giants came. That's one school of thought. Of course, there were giants living on the earth those days. And then, in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them, they were the heroes of old men of renown. So, these people were very, very tall, very huge. They were gigantic people. Okay? Now, what happened was, the Lord saw, verse 5, the Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals, creatures that move along the ground, and the birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. In King James Version it says, it repented of God. Right? It repented of God. So God felt sorry. Why did I make this man? Why did I make this man? When God comes to that point, can you just imagine what these people must have done for God to make such a statement? Why did I ever make these people? There, look at what happened. Look at these people, how the wickedness was. Verse 5. Every inclination of the thought of his heart was only evil all the time. Every inclination. Do you believe the Bible is 100% true? So it means it is 100%, every inclination. It is not even once that man started thinking good. His inclination, every inclination had wickedness and evil embedded in it. So what do you think God said? I'm going to wipe it away. I'm going to wipe the mankind. Look at the beautiful verse that you find in verse 8. When God wanted to wipe the earth away, in verse 8 you find, but Noah found a favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. What do you understand from this? What do you understand from this? When the world is going in one particular direction, it is possible for you and me to stand against that direction and be committed to God. And God saw Noah. He found favor in the eyes of the Lord. See, today, the biggest problem is, you know what the biggest problem? We all have seen this, even in our childhood days. More so in the youth, we find this. You know what is called? What is that? That's a PP. Peer pressure. Right? Peer pressure. Because they are doing it, I want to do this. I've seen many boys, they take to smoking just because somebody is smoking and somebody says, hey, you don't smoke? You're not a man. So they just take it serious and say, wow, I need to smoke. No, that's the peer pressure. Today, I can see the peer pressure not only among the youth in the schools and colleges, but you find also in the churches. You know, churches. We will do this because the other church has done it. You find this many things happening. The style of worship. Okay? The style of worship. Now tell me one thing. Some of the churches, when you all were growing up, you never had a video or projector. You had a songbook. Right? You had a songbook. And now there are churches. I'm not against songbooks. I'm not against video projection. I'm all for everything. These are all trivial things. That's what I think, you know. But people can make a big deal of it. Yeah? And say, how can you get rid of the songbook? Or how can you bring the video projection? What is the most important thing? Are you worshipping God? That's the most important thing. Whether you read it on a paper or read it on the screen, doesn't matter. But people are just doing things because somebody else is doing it. You know? Because we want to be a part of that group. That's not what God says. Look at what Noah did. He stood against the whole generation. He was the only man who was different. Let's see how God was dealing with him. Now, this is one person about whom Bible says this is the account of Noah. I mean to say, I want to tell you about this man. Okay? Right. Verse 9. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Okay? He walked with God. Please remember, I want to share something with you here. You remember Adam walked with God in the garden. Yes or no? Right? But we also studied now that Enoch walked with God when he had a family. Right? You find in 5 and 24. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God. And Genesis 6:9 says, Noah walked with God. So please remember one thing, one lesson that we learn from here is, Adam walked with God in the garden. Enoch and Noah walked with God outside the garden. Okay? What does it mean? God gives you and me the privilege of walking with Him even after man fell down. Now when you come to walking together, there's a very popular verse that you find in Amos. Right? Chapter 3 verse 3. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? Do you see that? Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? So God found Noah a righteous man, a blameless man in his entire generation. And then he walked with God. Okay. Then God said, you need to get an ark ready. We all know this story. You need to get the ark ready. I'm not going into the details, but I'll just pick up a few highlights here and there. Please remember that Noah never went to school. He just followed God's instructions. And somebody put it like this. The Titanic was built by engineers. Right? It never made to the shore. An ordinary, unschooled, uneducated man blindly followed God's numbers and instructions. It survived the flood. That tells us that we are under an omniscient, omnipotent God. We need to just blindly believe Him. You can just blindly believe God and you will never go wrong. You'll never go wrong. Okay, then the dimensions are given there. And then there's one thing that you find, verse 16. Make a roof for it and finish the ark to within 18 inches of the top. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle and upper decks. You know what are these 3 decks? 3 decks. If I was teaching only on this particular ark, I would put it this way. Lower, middle and upper decks are nothing but the Trinity, the Father, Son and the Holy Spirit. We're not getting into the details of that, but you could do this study, okay? You could do this study and think about this ark. What happened with this ark and what the purpose of this ark was. And please remember, this ark is being built on the ground. Now, who in the world would build an ark, a ship, on the ground where there is no water around? He cannot. You cannot imagine somebody doing that. But the construction of the ark itself shows the faith that Noah had on God. Noah trusted God so much. And this is what he understood and said, I will do what God tells me. It might look stupid to the people. I might look foolish to the people, but I will build this ark. Okay? He continued that. He built it. And verse 22. What a great certificate the Bible gives to Noah. The verse 22, the certificate he gets is, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. I want to ask you a question. Is this not a wonderful verse to have it on your tombstone? Is it not wonderful? He did everything that God commanded him. What a great certificate Noah got. Right? He did everything that God commanded him. Okay. Then when we come to chapter 7, God said you have to preserve the species. Please remember in Genesis, first 2 chapters when we were studying about the work ethics and the work pattern of God, we said God is a great planner. Right? The numbers itself tell you that this ark certainly came with the evidence. There is an evidence that this ark withstood water for 371 days. Okay? It withstood 371 days of water. It rose even to the topmost mountain. It was on the top of the mountain Ararat. And now this mountain is still there on the mountain. Okay, this ark is still on the mountain. So that tells you that there is a great design engineer behind this. Yes or no? Okay? So this great design engineer is also a great planner. So he said, okay, what? You need to preserve the species. He said, you need to bring 7 of every kind of clean animal. Verse 2, chapter 7, verse 2. 7 of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate. You may ask me, why 7 of the